Welcome back to another typical PNW guy YouTube video, and I'm going to be talking about how I got my headlights to look like that and make them stay like that for many years, not just months. So, before I did them, they were very cloudy, and like this one, it was like all the way down to here, yellow, cloudy, and then the original finish was still down there. But hard to see at night. You couldn't see the bulbs, and it was like driving with a sheet of paper in front of your headlights. And this one was completely all the way down, yellow. Just imagine like a highlighter. So we're going to be talking about that. So there is going to be some kind of like live footage or whatever of just me filming some of the steps. I'm not showing you everything because you can do certain things differently, but this is definitely, for multiple people. So if you want to do it at home yourself, or if you're trying to get into this business like what I do, it allows you to, learn both ways. So without further ado, here we go. Alright, so what you guys have seen is me restoring my headlights on my 2006 Buick Rainier SUV. It's got like 270,000 miles on it, and they were looking pretty sad. So I do this for a living, and so I decided to do it for myself. You know, not just give the customers the experience, but for myself. And it's not some trade secret like a lot of people think. Now, the proper way to do it is to remove the oxidized surface. That's what gives you the yellow or the cloudiness. And so you need to remove all that. You need to remove the original coating from the factory. And that's what you saw me wiping the dust off, was so I could see the clouds of the original coating. And you step your way up through the grits. I end anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000. And I usually start with anywhere from 340, 400, 500, and go up. Now, there's tons of different grits in between there, so you can choose whatever ones you want as long as you end between 1,500 and 2,000 or 2,500. It's all up to you. Excuse me. Now, with that, I just use air sander. Now I have everything in the back of this SUV, so it kind of makes it easier, but you can get the same attachments for a drill, or if you want, you can hand sand. I don't wet sand like a lot of people do, and the results are the same. It's just how much effort you want to put into it. I'm more of a production based system, so it's kind of get it done. Now after that, you wipe all the dust away, you kind of blow it off, and then I use grease and wax remover to clean everything. If you don't have grease and wax remover, you can use isopropanol alcohol. So just like you would clean a cut. Now you don't want to scrub into it. It's more of just wipe it off. You want to wipe it off initially, and then you want to do a second wipe to, and then make sure you get all the nooks and crannies, all the edges, but again, not rubbing it, because you'll kind of burn into the plastic, because plastic is very sensitive to chemicals. After that, you let it air dry for a minute or two, and then you use an adhesion promoter. And personally, I use this. It's pretty cheap. You just got to make sure that it doesn't freeze, you're doing it at the right temperature, and you got to shake it. That's the problem, is a lot of adhesion promoters don't spray right if you don't shake it. It doesn't matter if it's in a canister or whatever. If the canister isn't pressurized enough, it won't spray right. If the rattle cans aren't shaken enough, it won't spray right, and you got to have that nice mist. So you just do a light coat over everything, just one coat, light coat, just make sure you get everything, and then you got to let it sit for whatever it says on the back of the can or whatever product you're using. For this one, I always let it sit about 3 to 5 minutes, whether you're doing actual paint work or clear coat work. And then after that, you got to have a UV resistant 2K clear. Now what that does is it resists UV light, so the clear coat won't yellow. And that's what a lot of the older clear coats or the cheaper clear coats do. Now I have my own system that I use, that I've been using for, I don't know, about 10-12 years. With this clear coat, I had a different clear coat before that, and it absolutely sucked compared to this one. And again, this is more for production clear. So, and then based on the weather, if you have the two-part, whereas you got the clear and the activator, you got to buy the right activator for the temperature that you're doing it. So right now, it's about 65 degrees with a breeze. So I'm using a mild activator, which means it'll flash off a little faster. And then I also have a high temp, which will make it flash off slower, just to try and make sure that that chemical process is proper. Now you saw my paint gun. It is an older Sada mini jet. It's more of a detail gun or a spot repair gun, and been using them for years and absolutely love them. Will never change. And I spray it at about 22 psi, 22 to 25, kind of depending on the weather. And you just, as you saw, tack coats. You do one super light tack coat, and then you do one kind of medium to heavy. And as you saw, because it is a little chilly, I have this. It's from Harbor Freight. Literally don't remember how much I spent on it because it's been that freaking long. But setting 2 down here, make sure you don't burn the plastic. That's why you kind of see me rolling it around and moving it constantly. Remember, you don't want to get it too close to the edge because you don't want to heat up the tape and get it to stick to your paint. Because if it sticks to the paint, when you pull all the tape off, it will pull your paint off with it. And you just kind of, as you saw, just go back and forth, and you got to follow the time frame. Now this clear coat with this activator, it wants 4 minutes between coats. If you heat it up, you can close that time gap. So that's kind of what you saw. And again, I've been doing this since 2010, and I really know my system. Now you can get a UV resistant 2K clear in a can, like a rattle can. It's not going to be as good, but for the DIYers, it'll be perfectly fine. Now, I know a lot of you are asking, why don't you just buff it? Well, guess what, guys? Buffing doesn't do anything. You buff a car, and guess what? Years down the road or whatever, it looks oxidized, and you got to rebuff it. I mean, you know those guys. There's one guy in every neighborhood that's constantly waxing and buffing his car. So you got to, like I said, remove the bad finish. You got to remove the cancer, just like rust. You don't leave rust on and just paint over it, or if you don't put body filler over it, because it'll fall apart. So you got to remove it, you got to clean it, you got to spray it, and you got to seal it. That's the important part. Now you can do a different route, and I'm not saying my method's the best. It's just what I know and what I have done. So as long as you seal it really nicely, it'll last years instead of weeks or months. Now, I choose to do the clear coat method, but you can also use a ceramic coat. And what that does is it, on a molecular level, seals everything up. Doesn't let UV in, doesn't let dirt in, doesn't let the salt in, all that good stuff. And that's a whole nother ballpark. But as long as you seal it, it'll last. So honestly, these headlights will probably last well beyond the vehicle. Someone's probably gonna pick these headlights out of the junkyard off of this vehicle. But you gotta let it sit after you spray it. As you see, I'm letting it sit. And you might notice I have 2 different tapes. So I have the yellow and I have the normal. Now this normal tan tape is just the painter's tape you use for your house. From I get it at Lowe's. I love it. It's the 3M version. And then masking paper, you can buy that wherever masking paper is. That's nothing special. But the yellow tape, you see it's right next to the headlight, and it protects the paint from your sanding and everything. And it also won't stick to your paint super harshly. And it is actual automotive tape. It's 3M. It's 2-inch. There's different colors. Just choose one. I often choose yellow or green, but there's orange, there's blue, whatever. But this seems to be the best for what I do. Sticking to the bumper, and then also releasing and then protecting it, whatever's behind it, from paint and or clear coat. So there's that. Just make sure you mask up everything properly. So you can see I taped up the engine bay, and I taped up the fenders, and then Harbor Freight moving blanket. Just put it over the windshield, guys. It's super easy, super quick, and it's just a peace of mind that you're not going to mess up your windshield. And you might have seen, I try and go a little bit overboard, what matters, and you can see my crappy truck in the background. But the hood strut, prop, whatever you want to call it, and again, this side is all masked up. And if you're spraying it right, you are not going to get overspray everywhere. So that is a big misconception, is, oh, you're going to get overspray on everything. Only if you're doing it wrong. Yes, some will float through the air. I'm not saying it's 100%, but I am saying if your PSI is right and your product is right for what you're doing, it will not go float through the air. So like, I'm not even worried about my truck. If anything sticks to it, it'll be more of like a dust that you can just blow off or wipe off, and zero damage. So there's that. Now, like I said, I've been doing this for 14 years, since 2010. So actually, it's almost been 14 and a half years. So if you have any questions, comment below. This is just another typical PNW guy thing. So a lot of vehicles on the West Coast, because of the sun and the salt on the road, they get really bad headlights. And yeah, let me know. And as always, peace.